com/festival.
Tonight, we're going to do the whole arc of, of women filmmakers. Dorothy Arzner.
40 years, I guess, yeah.
Going into Ida Lupino, going into Elaine May, going into Joan Darling. These aren't women's films.
No, and they're not little esoteric things. They're very much of their time. Particularly when we end in the middle 70s, and I think back, and the middle 70s were a time of such excitement for women. Women's liberation was in the conversation.
Well, I think Dorothy Arzner, Ida Lupino, Elaine May, we really need to reevaluate. These are just great films. This film, First Love, of which I had never seen, is a deceptive little romance movie because it's about first love, but there's some very dark undertones in the film that really surprised me. It stars Susan Day and William Catt. I thought they were fantastic. John Hurd and Beverly D'Angelo, both in early performances, really stand out. A lot of energy, a dense little film. Joan Darling, the director of this film, talk to us a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, she's another interesting, but again, very isolated. But in this instance, what I loved about Joan's story, in a way, is she's an actress and she's working, and it was Norman Lear, who she's talking to about her stories, because she wants to write and do these stories. And it occurs to him as she's talking about the story she wants to tell, I'll tell you what, I've got this story, and you can direct it. And it's Mary Hartman. And she takes it home, and she reads it, and she says, oh, my God, I get it. And Norman said, I knew you would get it. So we have to, tip our hat to Norman here for giving her that credit. And for Mary Hartman, she goes on to direct, entire seasons of the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
And does what is considered the greatest comedy episode of all time.
Well, certainly one of them, yes, absolutely.
By some critics, Chuckles Bites the Dust.
Talk about laughing and crying at the same time. Chuckles Bites the Dust.
Well, it's funny you say that, because again, that's something I think women excel in, is that laughing. It doesn't go too far. It walks that line, creating pathos. The comedy comes out of the situation. It's not so much a gag or a punchline. And that is, an amazing episode. I rarely hear that it's directed by a woman. You hear that it's, No,
you have to be, I mean, I've always been a credit reader, reading those credits from a very early age. But you don't notice. You don't notice who wrote it or even directed it, particularly television.
Yes, and she also directed a very prominent episode of MASH.
The Nurses.
The Nurses.
Yeah, making Hot Lips into a full three-dimensional character for the first time. Instead of just the brunt of objectivity.
Yes, so those are moments where she really, stands out. And here is a movie that it just surprised me. It's such a fantastic film that I'd never heard of the film. Very much shot from a woman's point of view. William Catt is fantastic in the film. This is after Carrie. And it's such a subtle performance. Very
much so, very nuanced. Just, again, so much happens with looks. Those quiet looks.
Another thing I like about the movie is that it tells the story of, first love, and she uses dissolves. There's no cuts in the movie, it dissolves. It dissolves. Sometimes there's Cat Stevens. So it has this really wonderful, kind of lyrical.
Almost ethereal. At certain points,
quality.
Hats off to Joan Darling. It's a very good little movie.
Yes, and a great performance by Susan Day, I would have to say. So from 1977, and the feature film directorial debut of Joan Darling, here is the TCM premiere of First Love.